Absolutely disgusting.
Why?
And I have never ever condoned that man's behaviour.
As senior elder at the local Kingdom Hall, Maurice Hadley formed a judicial committee, the way the church deals with all breaches of its code of behaviour, from smoking a cigarette through to serious crimes.
There were 3 elders, including him, in that committee. And they apparently, so Maurice told me, spoke to Bethel in Sydney and decided amongst themselves that no one should know about it. It should be a private reproof.
So, for sexually abusing his daughter from the age of 4, a crime he readily admitted, all Victor Webb got was a reprimand behind closed doors.
A private reproof?
Private, yeah. So, and then he would be put on a course of Bible studies, because that's what was wrong with him. Spiritually he was sick, so he was told.
At the very least, Natalie Webb had wanted her father disfellowshipped, expelled from the congregation, the ultimate sanction for Jehovah's Witnesses. It didn't happen.
Why didn't the elders of the church disfellowship him for what he did?
Why didn't they?
Yeah. Why didn't you?
Well, I'm not the decision maker.
You were?
No, I was only one of them. I was a committee.
Can you tell me why he wasn't disfellowshipped?
Well, not now, I can't.
I'd believed all my life that when you do something wrong, you get disfellowshipped. And I guess I went a little bit crazy, you know. I just couldn't work it out.
A secret deliberation, a private reproof. No recourse whatsoever to the proper authorities.
Did you go to the police?
Which is a reasonable... No, I didn't.
Why not?
Well, it was something for the family to decide and do.
Maurice said to me that the authorities shouldn't be notified because it would be a bad witness, and that they would be able to handle the situation.
So Maurice Hadley told you quite specifically not to go to the police?
Yes.
Yeah, and I say that that's not true.
You swear by that?
I swear by that, categorically.
You never said that to her?
Never said that to her.
Yet here's something that lends weight to Natalie's claim. A letter from her mother to Maurice Hadley and the other elders in 1997.
Your inability and reluctance to deal with the police shows we would have been waiting forever.
By now, the family had had enough and had gone to the police themselves.
Because I'd never had any dealings with the police, I was very apprehensive, but they were just the most compassionate, wonderful lot of people, and I was so surprised. I got more caring and concern from them than I did from any elder. Genuine caring.
Victor Webb pleaded guilty in the Victorian County Court to 8 counts of indecent assault and 7 counts of incest. He was sent to jail for 10 years, but the church elders supported the criminal, not his victim.
They sent 3 representatives from the congregation to be with Dad. Yeah, and
during the trial?
During the trial, and no one was sent for me. And in fact, they ignored us. When we walked into the court, they wouldn't even speak to us. I guess they thought I was satanic, or heading down that way, yeah.
But the real evildoer is still being supported behind bars.
You go and see him in jail?
I visit him periodically.
So you go and see him in prison?
Twice a year.
And why do you do that?
Why do I do it? Well, don't you believe that people can change?
Even now, Victor Webb hasn't been disfellowshipped, though the private reproof became a public reproof when the police became involved.
Yes, before all onlookers, other members of the congregation were advised of his situation so that parents could, if they chose to, take precautionary steps to avoid situations that might compromise their children.
And that was it.
How do you feel about the church now?
I'm still very disappointed. The more I hear, I just am so saddened that it's so endemic and everywhere. It's very saddening.
And there are other cover-ups in the church that have had even more serious consequences, allowing pedophiles to offend again and again. What happened to Simon Thomas is, by any measure, a shocking indictment of the Jehovah's Witnesses and their willful disregard of the secular law.
Now, this is where he brought you, or followed you, quite a bit, wasn't it? Yep.
We're back at the place where, aged just 12, Simon first encountered his abuser, Robert Souter.
You know, he'd touch and feel, and he'd laugh about it, or he'd give me a clip round the ear, give me a good whack, and just to make sure you just to make sure yeah. And then he'd go back up inside.
And then there were the Bible study sessions at Robert Souter's home.
Probably the worst of what happened to me happened here at this house.
Now we're talking about extreme abuse.
Yeah, extreme abuse. At first it was almost surreal. It was like it wasn't happening. But I was afraid to say anything. It's just the usual. I was just afraid because I didn't want my parents to be upset, and I didn't want the congregation to be upset. I didn't want bad things said about Jehovah's Witnesses. So I basically just
Kept it to yourself?
Kept it to myself and copped it on the chin.
For how long?
For about 3 years.
Then one night, a shocking revelation, when Simon's younger brother has a nervous breakdown on a church trip to the Northern Territory.
He phoned my parents to tell them that he'd been abused by Robert Souter, and it was horrific. The situation was terrible. So my father approached one of the elders and said, "Look, Robert Souter has done this and this and this to my son." So the elder said, "Okay." He said, "We'll take care of it." And I'd heard this, obviously, and I approached the elder that my father spoke to, and I said, "Look, my brother's telling the truth, because it's also happened to me."
Can you tell me the name of that elder?
That elder that we spoke to at that time was John Wingate.
John Wingate? Yeah, I'm Graham Davis from the Sunday program at Channel 9. I just wanted to talk to you about Robert Souter and the abuse of the Thomas boys in Wollongong.
No comment.
The boys first came to you, didn't they? The family first came to you.
No comment.
Well, Simon Thomas has told us that, so we know that.
John Wingate is still an elder of the Cooma congregation in southern New South Wales, where Robert Souter had moved and, we now know, had begun abusing children at the Kingdom Hall there.
What did Wingate say to you?
Well, he said he seemed to take it very seriously, and he said, "Look," he said, "we'll chase it up and leave it with me." And that was the last we heard of it.
You said to him, "Leave it with me." He says that's the last he heard of it. Did you feel that you had any responsibility to get back to this family? Did you feel...
I have no comment to make to you.
Unbeknown to the family, John Wingate and the other elders did act. They disfellowshipped Robert Souter, expelled him from the congregation. But it wasn't long before the Thomas family got some devastating news.
It was around about the 6 months, and they reinstated him into the Cooma congregation.
What did you think when you were told that?
I couldn't believe it. I was stunned, and I was unbelievably upset.
Now, what that family wants to know is why he was reinstated into the church around 6 months later.
Bring the Watchtower Society of Australia and they will answer all your questions regarding that situation.
Well, can you tell me, sir, why
why
can't you speak about it?
Because I'm not at liberty to.
Why?
Because I'm not.
You handled the case.
That's none of your business.
I spoke to an elder down there, and he said Robert Souter was repentant, so when you're repentant, you're allowed back into the congregation.
Do you have a problem with hearing? You have a hearing impediment?
I'm trying to find some answers.
You're not going to get answers off me because I've told you.
So in the absence of any answers from the elders, let's look at the Watchtower's guidelines for dealing with child abuse. When a judicial committee determines that a child molester is repentant and will remain a member of the Christian congregation, it would be appropriate to talk very frankly to a former child abuser, strongly cautioning him as to the dangers of hugging or holding children on his lap.